Welcome to the Connect Your Health to Life coaching podcast. I'm your host, Seth Lusk. I'm a master certified life coach and published author with a decade-long background working in the health, wellness, and fitness industry as a personal trainer, nutrition specialist, and life coach. If you're anything like me or the clients that I work with, then you might be struggling with some confidence issues or struggling with feeling like you're not living your most fulfilling or authentic life. You may be trying to figure out why you have these amazing desires for what your most fulfilling life would look like, but you can't seem to create consistent action in your life to reflect those desires. So join me as we dive in deep on what it means to truly live a fulfilled and authentic life from the inside out. We're going to look from the perspective of an empowered mindset and uncover some of the reasons why you might be what's holding yourself back from living that most fulfilling life. But don't worry, this isn't about blame, guilt, or shame. This is about empowering you to see. I'm going to break through some of the biggest illusions and myths that we've all been taught to believe along the way. And I'm so excited to have you with me on this journey. So my only question for you is, are you ready to start living your most fulfilling life once and for all? Then let's get started, shall we? Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. For those of you listening in for the first time, welcome, welcome. You picked a great episode to listen in on this week. I know I say that every week, or I say that it's an interesting episode this week. I'm just going to call it great because I'm talking about something that I'm really excited about, but we're doing something a bit different. So normally the style of this podcast, if you've listened already, is that I find lessons that I'm seeing people struggling with, either clients of mine, friends of mine, lessons that I've struggled with in life that I see other people struggling with, or just things I'm observing on social media and throughout my life that people are really struggling with, nailing down these lessons, learning what it is that they're here to learn, and growing and evolving through those lessons. But this week, I want to do something a little bit different. I don't have a specific topic. Well, I do have a specific topic, but we're not just going to talk about one lesson. We're going to talk about my book this week. For those of you who don't know, yes, I wrote a book. I wrote all 390 pages of this book. It is sort of autobiographical, also sort of personal development, self-help. It is about my life and some of the biggest lessons that I've learned as far as finding my truest desires in life and how to stop distracting myself from them. So today, I want to talk with you all about this book. I want to talk with you all about, why I wrote the book and some of my favorite lessons from every chapter of the book. And then I want to talk to you all about some of the lessons that I learned through the process of writing my first book and publishing it. At the end, I'm going to give you all a few of the reader reviews, some people that have read the book, what they're saying about the book, so you all can know what other people are saying that have taken the time to read all 390 pages of my book, because it's so worth it, guys. I'm not joking. And I'm also going to read you all an excerpt from chapter 0 of my book. Yes, I started on chapter 0 and went to chapter 10. I started on chapter 0 because I don't know. I thought it felt right to start with a chapter 0. Chapter 0 is part of the story, but it's also sort of an introduction as to what I want you all to use the book for. So I'm going to read an excerpt at the end. So stay tuned and listen up. I hope you all enjoy what I'm sharing here today. And if you do, I'm going to leave in the show notes below a space where you can go and buy my book on Amazon because it's available on Amazon. So I want to start off by telling you guys, why is it that I decided to write a book, and why did I decide to write this specific type of book or this book? So I would say since my early 20s, when I started sharing my life story with people, when I was out as an adult on my own and telling people the things that, I had lived through and my story about them and what I experienced, what I had learned, what I was doing and what my plans were for the future, I kept getting so many responses that were so similar that were like, Seth, you have to write a book one day. You have an amazing story. You're so inspirational. You're still pushing forward in life towards your goals, even though so many times life has thrown obstacles in your way. And you've just learned through them and you keep growing. And I think your story is inspirational and people will want to hear it. Please write a book. And I kept hearing this over and over again. Seth, you need to write a book. Seth, please share your story. Write a book, please. People will want to read it. People want to read about your story, Seth. And so I decided to write a book. And that's why I decided to write the book. And then why I decided to write the book the way I wrote it is because I thought, yeah, there are plenty of autobiographies out there. Plenty of people have inspirational stories. And it doesn't make my story less inspirational. It doesn't make their story less inspirational or anyone's more inspirational. But I wanted to take the opportunity to share this in a way that also shared my biggest life lesson so far, which has been how to find my truest desires in life, not the ones that I was told by the church, by my school teachers, by my parents, what I should want in life, but how I found my truest desires in life and how I started noticing that the things I was chasing after were simply distractions and substitutions for those true desires, and what I did to stop doing that for myself. And that's what the book is about. But I wanted to take the opportunity of sharing my story to share that because I feel like, yeah, you can hear my life story. Yes, you can feel inspired. But I want you all to know why it is that I learned what I learned and what I did differently, and hopefully inspire you to start seeing in your life where you might be doing the same. I wanted to take this autobiographical experience, which isn't actually a full autobiography, guys. I'm not even 40 years old yet. I'm almost 40, but not quite 40. And there's so much more that I'm going to have to share by the time I'm 80, 90 years old. I'm sure I will write another book that's like the second half of my life autobiography. But I wanted to take the opportunity to share that autobiographical experience with you guys and add in that extra layer of personal development and self-help for you all. So that's why I wrote the book the way I wrote it. That being said, every chapter has its own theme, its own way that I was learning this process of uncovering my truest desires and stopping distracting myself from my truest desires. So each chapter has a very powerful lesson in it. And I just want to go through each chapter and share with you all what these lessons were that I learned. And then I'm going to go through some lessons that I learned through writing the book itself. So chapter 0. Biggest lesson that I want you all to take from that chapter is that we are all very unique in our paths in life, and no one is wrong for being on a path that they choose, and no one is more right for being on a path that they choose. Our experiences are based in very limited perception and experience that is based on our attempt to make sense of the world, to have our needs met at such an early age. We start creating our interpretation of the world at such an early age, and it's based in us just trying to get our needs met and trying to interpret so much information going on around us. Our journeys through these experiences offer us so much potential for learning. The stories we tell ourselves about those experiences when we get further along in life, these stories are also a huge learning opportunity for us to grow and develop ourselves and how we love ourselves, care for ourselves, and what we will do as far as moving forward into our goals in life. That's the biggest lesson I want you to take from chapter 0. Chapter 1. We all want to be seen and we want to be known, but how often do we hide our true selves and present a false self to be known, and then we wonder why we feel unseen and unknown? We are so ashamed of who we think that we are, that we try to be seen and known by these very inauthentic ways in life. And this also applies to acceptance, which is what I talk about in chapter 2. So in chapter 2, I want to talk about how often, I want you all to take away from this how often we modify ourselves, buffer ourselves, and censor ourselves to play roles that we are actually uncomfortable with when we're around, but we do it when we're around certain people that we don't feel good enough for to be accepted by. And so we play these roles just to see if we can gain their verbal or some sort of cue of physical acceptance by them, all just in hopes to feel accepted, to feel enough, to feel seen, to feel understood. But even if we gain this acceptance, we still don't feel accepted. And that's because along the way, we have internally rejected ourselves over and over and over again to gain that acceptance. So of course we don't feel accepted. We're not even the ones showing up, and we've rejected ourselves to show up in the way that we've shown up in our life. So how is it that I stopped this cycle of rejecting myself to try and attain my truest desire of feeling accepted, of feeling seen, of feeling known by doing it for myself? How did I allow myself to be my truest self and to be seen and known? I guess you're going to have to read the book to find out. So let's move on to chapter 3. So chapter 3, what do I want you to take from it? We talk about joy. Joy is something that we generate inwardly. It's based on our story that we tell ourselves about our circumstances in life and the things or people in it. But it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't come from the people, things, or circumstances. Joy is our story about ourselves and how we relate to those circumstances in our life. How are we growing and evolving through them? How are we grateful for those circumstances in life. It is in knowing that we are taken care of because we are taking care of ourselves, and that we are surrounded by opportunities to find ourselves grateful, fulfilled, and living a life of purpose. That's when we feel joy. Oftentimes we confuse this with feeling pleasure that we feel with things like from food or television or sex or buying some new novel object. But these feelings of pleasure, happiness, and enjoyment and indulgence, they're all temporary feelings based on temporary narratives around temporary things. And joy is permanent. Joy can be felt at all times in life, even alongside sorrow, grief, sadness, anger, any other emotion in life. And this is because joy is independent from external input. Joy is something entirely internally generated from knowing who we truly are and the untouchable nature of that being's worth. And that we are in this life full of opportunity to remind ourselves of that, take care of ourselves because we know our worth, and then we show up in the world to help others see their value and worth and find their joy as well. You might be wondering how I found this, but you're going to have to read chapter 3 in the book to find out more. So chapter 4, it's all about love. The only love that we truly ever feel is our own love. It's not a love coming from another person. When we think that we need love from another person to be lovable or to feel love, what we are actually doing is asking another person to give us permission to believe something about ourselves, that in the end, we are the only one able to give ourselves permission to believe it. Even if someone else gives you the permission and you don't give it to yourself, you still won't believe it and you still will not feel lovable, and therefore do not allow yourself to feel love. When we give love to another person, we are releasing judgments and conditions of human worth, and therefore releasing those on ourselves. And the love that we feel is the love that we are freeing ourselves to be allowed to feel by releasing those judgments and conditions. That's what I want you to take from chapter 4. Chapter 5. Trust is not something to earn. And I know some of you all are going to be like, whoa, hold the phone there. Hear me out here. Trustworthiness is not something that is earned. That is something I was fed my entire life as a kid, that trustworthiness is something to earn, but it is not. Trustworthiness is something that we individually choose to offer to people based on our perceived and current ability to trust. And this perceived ability is based in a story that we tell ourselves of what it will mean about us and our worth if we trust someone and they lie to us. The truth is, everyone is capable of lies, and everyone alive is lying. Even if it's just as simple as lying in the manner of hiding who you truly are from the world, hiding behind a mask that you think other people would prefer to see, it's still lying. We all lie in this life. When we lie about our desires and we don't be truthful about our truest desires in life and what we really want, when we don't say no when we actually want to say no, it is all lying. My friends, everyone in this life has lied and is lying or will lie. Okay? People choosing to trust you or you choosing to trust someone else has nothing to do with someone's ability to lie or their inherent trustworthiness. It has to do with the individual who is deciding whether or not to extend trust. It has to do with them and their story surrounding what it will mean about them as a person if you might lie to them after they extended trust, and whether or not they are willing to face that story and process those feelings. That is where trustworthiness comes from. There's so much more in these chapters, guys. I'm just sharing to you all some of the biggest lessons coming out of these chapters. So please go read the book to find out more, because there's so much more in there about trust and trustworthiness. Chapter 6 is about courage. Simple, big thing that I took from this chapter that I want you all to take, plus much more. Courage is not the resistance of fear at all. It's not even overcoming fear. It's not about getting rid of fear. In fact, courage requires fear to be present. If fear is not present, this is not courage. Taking action while fear is present is courage. If you feel afraid while taking the step, that is courage, my friend. Courage isn't something that happens once the fear is gone. Courage happens when you take action while the fear is present. Okay, so chapter 7 and 8, these two kind of tied together. So I'm going to talk about one of the lessons that comes out of these two chapters. Time is a useful but imaginary construct of the human mind. It doesn't actually exist, and I know that's going to blow some of your minds here, so just stick with me. The only time that ever exists is right now. Everything else is just a story that exists in our mind based on interpretation of data, using information that we have interpreted and stored in our brain at the time when we created these stories. These stories are not real. Presence is the recognition of this, and the releasing of the stories from being who we are, or what defines us, or what determines what we are capable of doing right now in this moment. Presence is how we experience life. It's how we experience it to its fullest and remember who we are and the unchangeable nature of that being, even while experiencing the uncertain, temporary nature of the human experience of this life. When we are busy filling ourselves up on living in these stories of the past and the future, we miss out on so much of our life and the experience we are here to be present in. This life is designed for us to experience for a reason. So many of us are so busy regretting the past or worrying about the future that we are never actually in this life to experience it. We cannot create a fulfilling life for ourselves if we are never actually in that life as it is happening. Chapter 9, one of the lessons. Things in life, such as containers or passions, are temporary. Think things like job titles, degrees, relationships with other humans, houses, cars, places to live, the color of our skin, the clothes we wear, etc. Purpose is something that is so deeply woven into every fiber of our being that it is permanent. Even if we don't intentionally live a life aware of our purpose and co-create with the universe to express that purpose in the world around us, guess what? We will be living it anyways. But a fulfilling life is one where we intentionally are aware, express, and manifest that purpose into the world around us and actively co-create with the universe to live out that purpose with intention and with awareness. Chapter 9 opens the door to you beginning to see how someone recognizes their purpose and what that awareness begins intentionally manifesting into their life, that being my life. Chapter 10, one of the lessons. The journey into a fulfilling and authentic life doesn't start with changing behaviors. It begins with a deep inward dive and being willing to root out all of our false desires and distractions that we've been relying on for our happiness and life fulfillment. And then we go through another internal process, one that is deeply rewarding, but most people are unwilling to do. Want to know what that process is? You're going to have to read the book to find out. But I promise you, it's one you'll want to hear about. So those are some of my favorite lessons packed into this 390-page long book that I wrote. One lesson from each chapter, but there's so much more there. So much more there. So much about my personal experience and how I came to learn these lessons, how I came to be aware of them, and what they can offer to you in your own life. Plus, there are many more hidden lessons within the chapters of this book. But here is what's interesting. I wrote a book about the lessons that I've learned in life up until the point of writing this book, about distracting myself from my truest desires and filling myself up on substitutes instead. And guess what? One of my truest desires was to get this book out there, to be seen and known in a way that makes me so vulnerable to the world, so open to the world, because it is out there for anyone who has access to Amazon to get. And soon I'm hoping to publish through some other publishing agencies and get it out to people who don't have access to Amazon. I need your help with that, though. I need to sell more copies of the book to get a publishing agency to look at this book and want to publish it. So I am asking for your help here. Go out and get a copy of the book today. But the very process of writing this book, of stopping distracting myself from that desire to get my story out there and let it be interpreted how it will. Let people that are going to misunderstand me. Let people who are going to be inspired and move into authenticity and growth in their life through hearing my story, let them have it. Let all of the chaos that comes from my story being available to the public happen. When I allowed that to happen and I started writing this book, I also learned some incredibly valuable lessons in the process, and I want to share those with you today. So here are some of the lessons that I learned just in the process of writing this book. The first one is that no one will give you the time or the permission to take the time. Intention to schedule and carve out time and release the responsibility for anyone's emotional experience of you choosing to do so is so key, my friends. It is so key. That is one of the biggest lessons I learned in writing this book. People weren't giving me permission to take 2-3 hours to sit down and write this book. No, people wanted my attention. People wanted me to do things for them. And I set the intention to go in my office, close the door, and it was just me, the keyboard, and my screen. I even turned off my internet access to my computer so I couldn't hop online while writing. It was just me and my Word document in front of me. People will not give you permission to do this, my friends. Don't look for that. Give it to yourself and start. Take step one. Give the intention, schedule the time, give it to yourself. The next lesson. Self-trust was a huge lesson for me here. Every page, every sentence, every word that I would write would be something that I would end up wanting to question myself on. Is this really important enough to write? Will people want to read this? Should I say it differently? I would have been writing this book for decades if I did not choose to hear that dialogue going on and instead choose to say, hey, I get it. This is important for us. Let me give you a new job. Tell me what you want me to do here moving forward. Tell me what lessons we will learn when someone doesn't read this properly, when someone doesn't read it the way that I intended, when someone tells me they didn't like reading the book. And then I chose to trust myself that what I was writing was something that I struggled in learning. And I knew I was not alone. So writing about this and sharing it with the world was important, even if some people didn't understand it and didn't like it. So I sat down and I wrote, trusting myself in the process that no matter what came out of this, I would have my back. The next lesson I learned, fixing my eyes on my intention when I knew that I had struggled through many things in life and that these things couldn't be something that only I struggled with. When I saw that, I wanted to write this book to help people who might be struggling with the same struggles that I went through. I had my intention. Every time those voices of self-doubt came out, I set my eyes back on the intention and reminded myself that this book writing was for me and my intention and my purpose in life to bring more understanding, compassion, and love into the world, even if only one person reads the book, and that being me, and grows from it. And then I just wrote. The next lesson I learned, be in the process. Trust the timing. I talk about this all the time with you guys, and I so much more cemented this belief in myself through this process of writing my book. There were days that I would schedule an hour to write, and would maybe one sentence would be written during that hour. There were days when I would schedule an hour to write, and at the end of the hour, when my timer went off, I would look at my screen and find that I had just written an entire chapter of the book. On those days when I only wrote one sentence, I could so easily slip into, I'm not a good writer. I'm lost. I instead chose a different path. I chose the path of trusting my higher self and trusting that they knew that today was not the day to share. That day was to reflect and put pieces together in my mind that would become something to share and write during another scheduled time to write. I stayed in my process and my journey, and I trusted it. The next lesson I learned, schedule time spent, not something completed. As I said, there were days when I would have written just a sentence, but I had an hour scheduled to write. So I sat there for the full hour, fully focused on my screen with the intention to write. And nothing else got my attention during that time. At the end of that time, I was able to celebrate with myself that I had spent an hour completely indistractable from the task which I had given myself, which was to write. I did nothing but write for that hour, even though I only wrote one sentence. If I had set the intention to write a full chapter on those days, I might have been sitting there for the entire day trying to write it and miss out on all of the other important things in my life that I wanted to spend time on in that day that were important for me. Or I might have ended the hour and then looked at myself with disappointment and disgust with the inability to complete a task. I would have began creating this negative inner dialogue and this image of myself of being unable to complete my agreements to myself. But instead, scheduling time spent was something I could follow through on. It did not matter how much I produced in that hour. As long as my attention was fully on the task at hand, nothing else had my attention for the amount of time that I agreed on with myself. And this helped me move forward in my writing process with excitement and a growing confidence in my ability to write and finish the book. The next lesson I learned: there will always be more. When it came time to publish the book, I kept going back and reading through the book and parts of the book and wanting to edit. I would find sentences that could be written more clearly. I would find typos. I would find grammar errors. I kept feeling this terror to put my book out there because I wasn't certain if it was perfect enough. Was it good enough for people to buy and read? I could compare other books constantly to mine. I could find possibilities to write things differently. And even sometimes I found myself convincing myself that I could write it better, quote unquote. I found myself asking when other writers would know that the book is good enough to publish. I did a lot of introspective thinking. I did a lot of paying attention to my inner dialogue, and I finally noticed that the voice convincing me to keep editing, the voice convincing me it's not time to publish it, was a voice that sounded a whole lot and very familiar, like a voice that I used to use for myself when I questioned my lovability, my worth, and I made it conditional. Made it something that I needed to work to earn. It was a voice from my childhood where I needed to be perfect and hear it from anyone that I turned my work into from me in school. It was that voice. And it was in realizing this that brought forth the intention in me to just publish the book. Publish the grammar errors, publish the typos, publish the sentence structures as they are. The people who are meant to receive the message of this book and do something with it, they will. The book is my work, not someone else's. It cannot be compared to someone else's because it came from me. I am a human with my own unique experience and talents and skills and perceptions and purpose in the world. This cannot be compared to another writer's work. Just publish the book, I told myself. So I literally sat on the computer, terrified, with a book that part of me was saying it's not ready yet, and clicked publish. The next lesson I learned: I can do things that seem to be hard at first glance. When I have the end picture in mind and I can just trace my steps back to where I exactly am right now, I can clearly see the one step that I would want to take right now, today, to bring me closer to that future vision. All I have to do is make the choice to take that one step today. That doable, maybe it feels terrifying based on the story I'm telling myself at the time, but that one doable step, that's all I have to do. And in doing so, I can practice courage, I can take that step, and I can do hard things. The next lesson I learned, and it ties back into what I talked about previously, the process. I talked about being in the process and how important that is. But here's the part that I found at the end. The process is truly the most rewarding part of it. I allowed myself to be in the process of writing my book very much. With it being my first book, I thought so many times that I would write that last sentence, I would write that last letter, and hit that period button and be done, and then something amazing would happen. People would be so proud of me. I would feel so proud of myself. There would be this huge sense of satisfaction. There would be this huge celebration as people around me realized that I just freaking wrote a 390-page book. But guess what? None of this actually happened. None of it did. Yeah, a few people said congratulations, or said that's cool, or they might have said, I bet you're happy that it's finished. And then life went on. It was at that time that I was so happy that I allowed myself to be fully present in my process of writing and allowed myself to enjoy that process, to savor it, to create memories of it, which I had my own back on and supported myself through and encouraged myself through. As I look back, sure, I'm happy that I have the book published. That's great. I'm happy that this work is available to help people all around the world. But when I look back, the part about this book that was truly rewarding was not finishing and publishing. It was the year-long process of me choosing myself, choosing my goal, choosing my vision, choosing my purpose, and knowing that what I am doing is worth my time and is important for me. Giving myself that time, that space, that support, that commitment to birth this vision of writing this book out into the world. That was the most rewarding part. The times I look on most fondly are those times when it was me in my office with the door closed in front of my laptop screen, encouraging myself to just write it, just share it. Click the button and send, Seth. Reminding myself of my worth and that there are people in this world who don't see their worth. And maybe this story that I am writing right now will help them to do just that, and maybe write their own book one day and tell us their story. Those times are the times that bring a smile to my face when I remember them. I feel joy when I remember them, and I feel so much satisfaction in the fact that I allowed myself to be 1000% present with that full experience, every emotion, every tear, every trembling finger as I was terrified to write something and wondering whether or not it was okay to share. I felt joy, and I still feel joy in remembering that. I did not tell myself during this process that I was not allowed to be proud or feel good enough until I was finished. I told myself, Seth, be damn proud of yourself right now as you write sentence 1 of this book, because you are doing it. You are here right now taking this step. Feel proud, feel successful. That was the most rewarding part of the journey in writing this book. Not the end, but the journey itself. This is why I'm working on book number 2 right now. I loved that process so much that I want to repeat it. My friends, the true joy is in the journey, not in the end result. I promise you that. Give yourself permission now to feel good enough and proud, and then go out there and keep taking those steps forward towards your future vision. So those are some of the biggest lessons from the book that I wanted to share with you all today. There are so many more in there, and all 390 pages. So that's what's in the book. Get out there and get your copy. But now I want to share with you all some book reviews. Okay? So here are some what some of the people are saying about my book that have read the book. Review number 1. Candid and humorous, but in a way that is also inspiring and relatable. I found myself understanding aspects of my own behavior and beliefs on a much deeper level than before. This book is written in a way that makes this deeper understanding so easy to access. This book is truly a fun reading experience that will also offer you life-changing insights. Another book review. Genuine, transparent, heartfelt. Shameless in the best possible way. These are just a few of the ways that I would describe this book. Seth bears his soul in the most beautifully honest way and creates a space that allows all readers to be equally as vulnerable and honest with ourselves, while also delivering a message that is chock full of inspiration and optimism, exceptionally written and a joy to read. Another book review. I really enjoyed Seth's book. It gave me very touching insights into his childhood and how certain events have shaped him and his way of thinking. While I was reading it, I oftentimes saw myself in him. Seth is excellent at sharing his wisdom in a comprehensive and interesting way. Another book review here. When you feel so vulnerable and miserable, this book will really be there for you. Seth's astonishing honesty gave me much comfort. His story inspired me to realize how resilient I can be despite never-ending hardships. I hope as many people feel empowered by reading his story. All right, here's another book review. Seth's book can be read as 2 in 1. A practical, easy-to-understand guide to navigate one's own thoughts and emotions, and an energetic stream of consciousness retelling the author's life that led him to discover and understand his own. Full of lived-through details, the book takes the reader on a journey of recognizing some of our own paths in life, which incites one to stop from time to time and self-reflect. The book provides an accessible, easy-to-understand itinerary to navigate through the challenges of the human experience, through chapters about acceptance, courage, love, trust, and presence. I just wish that instead of being told to get my act together in certain moments of my life, I would have been given this guide as a helpful, empathetic companion instead. All right, I've got one more book review that I want to share with you all. One more here. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. Okay. What I really want is ... but I'm just too full of ... Penned by the author Seth Lusk, is the book that suits my reading taste. In this book, Seth has shared about many experiences from his life. As a life coach, he provides support and guidance to others. The author has mentioned that we come into this world without a how-to manual. People around us who guide us also don't have such a manual. They're also fighting it out, or figuring it out. Sometimes we start following others in life without even questioning why we're doing it. Many times we want beautiful things in this life, but we fill ourselves up with the temporary fixes. The result is that we will starve for the things that we really want. Instead of looking for validation and acceptance from others, people should detox themselves so that we can move forward towards internal acceptance that is rewarding. Seth has very well explained how joy is not the happily ever after end goal, but rather is in the obstacles, fears that we face. Joy is in the choices we make, and we get to make when we go after what we truly want in life. As a debut author, Seth has done amazing work in this book. I am impressed by the knowledge, experience that he has shared in this book. The cover photo of the book is also nice. I was able to relate with some of Seth's experiences. I loved the buffet line example. This book has really inspired me to take steps toward a life of fulfillment instead of being happy with the temporary fixes. Language used in this book is easy to understand. I would like to recommend this book to any other reader. All right. So those are the reviews, some of the reviews. There are many more out there, but I wanted to share just a few of those with you all and let you all know the feedback that I'm receiving from the book is really great. People are enjoying it. So one last thing I want to do with you all here today is just read to you all an excerpt from my book. Okay? Now, I haven't practiced this ahead of time, so I may stumble on my own words here, even though I wrote it. But stick with me here. Okay, so from chapter 0 of the book. Chapter 0. Hey, it's me. I really want to write this book. The introduction. Writing a book is hard. Like, where to even begin? Write a book, Seth. You have such an amazing story. Oh my God, Seth, you need to write a book. When you write your book, I'm going to buy it, Seth. I really hope you write a book one day. You have such a story to tell. I know all of your names and faces, so I'm holding you to this. And I'm holding myself to this. Here is that book. But of course, you had to know, I don't do things the conventional way. No, I never have. So I hope you weren't expecting that I was going to start now. Not with my first book. This book is written just like I would sit and talk to you. The language isn't professional. The grammar is very informal. I'm not here for the grammar police, my friends. I'm here to paint a picture with my words, and that picture is one of a life full of lessons learned and lessons ignored, but eventually learned. So yeah, here I am, writing this book, one chapter at a time, and soon, publishing it. I think the writing part is actually quite fun and rewarding, but the part where I would submit that final manuscript and approve it for publication, that's the doozy. My work will just be out there. It'll be available at the click of a button. People might have this sitting on their shelf at home to read and maybe even reread. I can dream, right? The fact is that as I write this, I know in the back of my head that this is going public. This is no longer an idea that I might publish a book. This is me writing and publishing a book. And I'm terrified inside my head. The list of questions firing off in quick succession. Will anyone like it? I don't know. Will anyone buy it? I don't know. Will I seem odd and crazy? I sure hope so. But I really want to write a book. Even though I'm dying for a big bowl of, I'll start this next year when I have more time soup, I've been eating that soup every day for the last maybe 10 years. Somehow, even though I hate the way it tastes, at this point, I still get up every day and I eat a big bowl. A bowl big enough to fill my schedule and keep me from writing this book right here. Today, I woke up and decided I was going on a diet. And that did not include this daily bowl of soup. And you see where it led me. I'm sitting here writing, making no sense to you at this point. So let me try and make a little bit of sense. You see, for my whole life, I have wanted to do a lot of things that terrified me. Things I just knew that I had it in me to do. Things that I knew somehow I am here on this earth to do. So I created this habit early on in life of finding something that felt very similar to what I wanted, but was not quite as terrifying, or that just seemed easy for me to get. I would go get those things instead. I would go get those things in excess until I had no appetite left for the thing that I really wanted. I continued this into my adulthood. It led to me spending a lot of time feeling full of unfulfilling, unimportant, and even obnoxious tasks, things, and feelings in my life. And as a life coach now, I'm finding that I'm not so weird. I'm not so alone in having developed this habit. The habit where I truly want, what I truly want, scares me. So I just fill myself up on the next best thing and hope to forget about what I truly want. I think that some of you know what I'm talking about here. Some of you have or are experiencing this in your life. So let me offer you some of the relief from judgment that I've found by telling yourself this: you are not alone. You are actually nowhere near alone. You are not broken, weird, strange, horrible, lazy, stupid, incompetent, stubborn, foolish, ignorant, naive, or any of the other names you may be calling yourself for having lived in this habit for years. Or in my case, for decades before finding the cause and the way out. The truth is that we live in a world that teaches us to look outside of us for distraction, for relief from discomfort, for the unconditional love and acceptance that we all desire. And this leads us also to believe that there is no way we could go after our true dreams in life. It would be too dangerous, scary, hard, impossible, so much work, and maybe even not worth it. Because what will other people think of you, right? And what if no one loves you? Or even worse, what if no one even likes you? That is a prickly and scary pill to swallow in a world that socially shoves the idea of things out there, including but not limited to other people, are what we need to fill up that empty feeling of those true wants that we all have burning inside of us. We live in a society that suggests to us to use anything to distract us from the last frontier in human evolution. The internal understanding, patient, compassionate, loving deep dive that we have all been avoiding for so long. I am talking about the internal journey into understanding ourselves fully, every part, and how to offer ourselves unconditional love, acceptance, and empowerment. I am talking about the journey where we empower ourselves to get out there and do the things that we truly feel called to do, and to not constantly fall prey to the immediate gratification and temptation that distracts us from those true desires. That's from chapter 0 of my book. What I really want is ... but I'm just too full of ... That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the reading from the book. I hope you're excited about the lessons that this book has in it. I hope you're excited to hear the lessons that I learned through writing the book, through showing up and doing something that I had talked about doing for so long but was terrified to do. I hope you all take these lessons, get out there and get the book, read the book, take these lessons and get out there and change your own lives, my friends, to the life that you are here to live, the most fulfilling version of your life that you are here to live. That is my hope for you all. So, as I said, if you want a copy of the book, I'm linking the Amazon Marketplace below in the show notes. If you can't click on the link, you can just go to Amazon, log in, make sure you log in to your Amazon marketplace. Otherwise, Amazon's going to tell you the book is not available. I promise you it's available because they print it when you order the copy. So the book is available, okay? But you have to be logged into your marketplace to look it up. If one of the links below does not work for you or isn't in your marketplace, then just log in, go to the search box at the top of Amazon and type in my name, Seth Lusk, and my book will pop up. You can also type in the title, What I Really Want Is ... but I'm just too full of ... and the book will come up and then you can order yourself a copy. It's on sale for the summer because I do a lot of my reading in the summer and I'm sure a lot of other people do, so I wanted to make it more accessible this summer to you all. So get out there, get your copy of the book, take the lessons in, my friends. Choose your own authentic version of learning through the experience of reading this book. And get out there and be the badass that I know every single one of you are. Stop living the story of what you really want is ... but you're just too full of ... I want to hear what it is that you really want and that you're full of that. So until we meet again here next Thursday, where I'm going to hear all of your stories about how you started going after the things you truly want in life. Until then, I love you all. Ciao. Hey, thank you for listening in this week. I hope you enjoyed the content of this episode. If you did, please subscribe or follow this podcast to receive the newest episodes every week as I bring them to you here on the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. Ratings, reviews, and comments are always appreciated. These allow me to know more of what my listeners would like in the podcast and allow for more people who may be searching for a podcast just like this one to find the Connect Your Health to Life coaching channel. If you would like more information about me and the work that I do with my clients one-on-one, then please visit my website at www.slch.ch. Again, that is www.slch.ch. You can also find me on social media on Instagram at SethLusk_coaching. Again, that is SethLusk_coaching. And on Facebook in my free Facebook group community called A Healthy Life Connection. We would love to have you in the group, and it's only 3 membership questions that you have to answer to join. And again, it's entirely free. And if you need any further information or just want to say hello, feel free to send me an email directly at slusk.health@slch.ch. Again, that is slusk.health@slch.ch. Thank you again so much for listening, and I look forward to our next time together. Ciao.